You can't have it all, at least not at the same time, or not at all times, or it's not going to be at its peak at the same time. Okay. Because, yeah, let me be clear. You can have it all, especially you, my love, as a woman, as the powerful woman that you are, as the beautiful, independent woman that you are. You can have it all. You can have it all. But that doesn't mean that you're going to have everything in your life at its peak at the same time. And we have to learn how to navigate this and be okay with that. Because if you are like me, if you think of yourself as a goddamn Wonder Woman, that you're like, I have to be able to do it all at all times. And even if you're not a woman, okay, this applies to men as well. But if you have that mindset of, oh my gosh, I cannot slack on anything, everything needs to be perfect at all times, and I got to be able to find time and energy to do everything, and somehow you feel like you're not enough, it's still not enough, or you're still not doing everything as you like, come have a seat at the adults table and let's talk about it.
I'm Fernanda Rodriguez, and welcome to the Adults Table.
I firmly believe that we are all responsible for our lives, our own lives. So if there's one person that can do what needs to be done for yourself, is you, right? Which means that it is your responsibility to organize your time and energy in a way that you can do for yourself what needs to be done. Okay. So I do believe that we have to have the mindset of how can I make it all work out? And how can I organize my day in a way that it makes sense? Right. But I feel like where we fall short and where we make mistakes is in thinking that we have to do it all at the same time, and that it's possible to be at our peak in every single thing at the same time. Whether there might be, relationship, career, um, workouts, so how you take care of your body, your health in general. All of these things are important, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't mean that they're all going to be at the same level at all times. And sometimes I feel like we set this unrealistic expectation and this assumption that the way to be happy is to achieve peak at all of these things at the same time. And that's just not realistic. You legitimately, you are not one of those people at the circus, that's a hard word for me, that those guys that spin the plates and that they cannot let the plates fall. Life sometimes feels like that. It feels that way. Like, oh my gosh, I'm just spinning all of these plates and I'm juggling everything. And, it just feels like a lot and it's overwhelming. But you don't have to be the person. You don't have to be that person who is balancing out all of the plates at the same time. Obviously, life is going to demand things from you. So you are going to have to do certain things, even if you don't want to do them. And sometimes it's going to be challenging, but you got to find a way. Right. So as adults, we also realize that we understand that. We understand that maybe, yeah, I don't feel like doing this. This is too much right now. I'm too tired, but I got to do it regardless. Now, where I think it's tricky and kind of the place that we put ourselves into is that we do a poor job understanding what actually matters and prioritizing what actually matters. So this overwhelming feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm not enough, this is not enough, often doesn't come from the fact that you're not being able to juggle everything, but from the fact that you're not able to make a decision on what matters. So you're either focused on something that doesn't matter, you're putting all of your energy and time into something that really is not aligned to your values, or you don't even know what those are in the first place, or you haven't made the decision of, okay, I'm going to do what matters and I'm going to be okay with the consequence of not doing everything else. The problem is that we think that there is a way to do it all. We think that we have enough time, enough energy, that we're these, superhumans that are always going to find a way to do it. But it's impossible. It's impossible because you have limited time. But even if you had all the time in the world, it doesn't mean you have the energy because everything that you're doing in life takes up from your energy. So sometimes you're left with some time in your day, but you just don't have enough energy to put yourself to do whatever it is that you wanted to do. So we have to come from a place, a very realistic place of understanding that time and energy are two very precious resources, and they're precious because they're limited. So, with that in mind, the first step for us to navigate the situation is to become okay with the fact that, yes, we're not going to have enough time and energy for everything. So, Our frustration and anxiety comes not from not executing everything, not doing everything, but it comes from the fight between us and ourselves. It comes from that place of, you should be doing all this, you should be doing all that. It comes from us trying to avoid the consequences of not doing it all. When in reality, we should be looking at everything that we have to do and face the fact that it's not possible to do it all and be like, I'm going to be okay with the consequences of maybe not being able to do these two particular activities or these two things that are important, but they're not important enough to have a place in my life right now. The moment that you say that to yourself, the moment that you have your priorities straight and that you understand the amount of time and energy you have available to you, and you agree with maybe missing on some things and not being at 100% in some things, then most of that anxiety goes away because you're okay with the consequences of your choices. So the problem is that we fight with the consequence. It's not that we need to have everything at the same time and do everything at the same time. So on one hand, we have this unrealistic expectation and idea that in order to be happy in life, everything needs to be at its peak at all times. So, your career needs to be at its peak, your relationship needs to be the happiest, your friendships need to be, all in check and everyone seeing each other always. And it all has to happen at the same time. Right. So we have this idea that it all has to be at the same time, essentially. When in reality, I like this thing that my fiance one day told me. I wasn't happy with my work and my job. And I told my fiance about it, and he was like, you can make peace with the fact that maybe this is a chapter of your life that you don't love your job. It's okay. There's going to be another chapter that you're going to like the job that you're doing. So that made me think a lot. If you think of life as chapters and you understand that there are going to be chapters that a part of your life is not going to be at its peak, and that's okay. And there's going to be another chapter that part is going to be at its peak, but something else won't, and that's okay. And if you see life in chapters like this, I think it's a much more realistic way and a more realistic approach to life that also gives you some sort of comfort because you understand it's okay. I can still be happy in spite of this one thing in my life not being, at its peak. So obviously, you're going to work in a way to be content with all of these things at the same time. Obviously, we're going to do that, but we don't have to attach the idea of happiness to a state in which everything is working out as you expected and as you wish, right? The other thing that I always think about is living abroad and being abroad. I've been, I don't live in my home country. It's been 7 years that I'm abroad. And this is one thing that always keeps, it's always in my mind that I'm like, not everything that makes me happy is in the same place. And sometimes I wrestle with that fact, but ultimately it's okay. Like it's okay if some of my friends don't live here, some of my closest friends. It's okay if I can only see them one time a year. Like that's fine. I also, in terms of trade-offs, I have so many more things that I appreciate here where I live and that I have access to every day. So everything's a trade-off and things don't have to be aligned all the time in that sense in order for us to live a fulfilling life. So on one hand, there is this expectation of happiness being everything at its peak all the time, which is simply not the case. And then on the other hand, there is the need for understanding like, okay, with the time that I have, with the energy that I have, and the way that I can juggle my life right now, what am I going to prioritize? And here is where I feel like we struggle a lot as well, because most of us don't know what we value. We just borrow the definition of value from whoever, from our family, from social media, from whatever. We don't know what we prioritize. And when I say prioritize, knowing your priorities is knowing what am I willing to put time, energy, and effort into, understanding the consequences of choosing these things, understanding that the moment that I choose them, it means that I'm going to lack in something else. What are those things? Those things aren't many. So the first mistake that we make is to think that first of all, we need to be what everyone else values. And the second mistake that we make is to think that we're able to value everything at the same time and many things at the same time. So, oh yeah, what are my priorities? Oh, my priorities are, and then you have a list of like 20 things, 10 things. And objectively, you won't have time to live up to all of that, to all of the expectations that you create for yourself the moment that you say that those are priorities. So you have to understand that what we really value and our true priorities are just not even a handful. It's probably like three or four things that you say, hey, in this moment in my life, this is my priority, which brings me to my next point, that those priorities are going to change. So it's okay for you right now. And this is controversial for a lot of people, but I think it's a very objective way of seeing life. It's okay if for you right now your job and money matters more than anything in the world, and you say, hey, I want to build wealth, I want to really focus on my job for like the next 5 years, I'm going to grind, even if that comes to the expense of quality time with friends, for example. If you look at this statement that I just said, is it something that you look at and you're like, oh, this is a right way of living life? I don't know. Many people are going to listen to this and be like, oh my gosh, you should never do this. You should never focus on your career over your friends or over quality time with your friends, or you're going to regret this one day. But the reality is, as long as you own what you value in that moment, as long as you're that's aligned with your priorities, it's a matter of also owning the consequences, which in this case might be, yeah, you're not spending quality time with your friends. So I think that having that very clear, and maybe, yeah, for the next 5 years, that's your focus. And you're going to be okay with the fact that even though it hurts you, and even though you wanted to spend more quality time with your friends, you're spending less time, but you're doing other things that you set yourself to do. And then 5 years from now, that's going to change. Then 5 years from now, maybe you're going to say, yeah, at this point of my life, I'm not willing to put as much time and energy into my work, and I'd rather spend more time with my friends. So these things change, and we have to become okay with this fact. I think that because we feel like we should want certain things, we end up not aligning to our true priorities. So those things change through our life, and it has to be a constant exercise of sitting down with ourselves and understanding, in this moment of my life, what is it that I'm going to prioritize, and what is it that I'm going to be okay not being fully present or 100% in. So I think we have to do this exercise all the time of understanding what we value and owning what we value, because it's going to be hard. For everything that we choose, there's something that we lose. Always, always. It's always a trade off. So instead of trying to fight that reality and think that there's a way of facing no consequences, we have to be okay with the consequences and decide which plates we're going to let fall. Right. So if you cannot spin all the plates at the same time, which are the plates that you're going to choose to let fall right now? And you're going to make peace with the fact that that's the way that it is right now. That's the moment that you have to step back and do an assessment of your life and understand, where am I spending my time? Going back to the friends example and the career example. If a person chose that they're going to spend most of their time and energy working, okay, it's the person's choice, and they're not going to spend as much time with friends, but they're saying yes to everything that their friends invite them to, and they end up not spending as much time as they wanted in their careers, they're going to feel bad about themselves, and they're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not enough, I'm not. But it's because the person is doing a poor job of setting boundaries and expectations. So that's the moment that you step back and you're like, let me understand if the way that I'm spending my time and energy aligns with what I value. Because many times it doesn't. So then we're left off feeling overwhelmed and feeling like we're not enough. So that's the moment that you have to start saying no, or have to start being selective with your yeses. Are your actions and your decisions aligned to what you value? The way that you spend your time and energy, is that aligned? And then my next point is that we have to do a constant assessment of how we're maximizing our time and our energy. So we have to become familiar with time management and energy management, the idea of these two things. When it comes to time management, a lot of people aren't organized by nature. They don't have like a process to do the things that they need, which leaves them with not enough time to do the things that they want. Right. So, assuming that you're focusing on the right things, quote unquote, right things, meaning things aligned to what you want, you have to find ways to maximize your time. So you have to find ways to organize your time, to organize your process. How do you do more with the time that you have? How many of us say that we want to do something? Let's say, oh, I want to read more books. It's a priority for me to read more books. I want to exercise, I don't know, my memory. I want to exercise my knowledge. But then on the day to day, you spend so much time scrolling. You spend so much time on social media looking at other people's lives. And then next thing you know, you've spent 3 hours on social media. So you're doing a poor time management and a poor use of your time. So that's the moment that you step back. And not only do you reassess where your time is going, but also you create certain processes. So you say, hey, you know what? I also like to scroll on social media. It, makes my mind relax and I need this time. Great. So can you do it for an hour? Like again, you have to own that, yeah, if you do it for 3 hours, maybe you're not going to be able to do the other stuff that you want. So you have to be an adult and own that as well and be like, I want this, but hey, guess what? I'm not able to do it. So it's my fault. Like really, sorry. You have to tell yourself the truth and then create a process. So you say, maybe, yeah, listen, every time I want to read for an hour, let's say. So every day that I read for an hour, I'm going to give myself 1 hour on TikTok afterwards. It's a reward that I get. I don't know. Figure out your processes. Or I know that I'm more productive in the morning. So I'm going to wake up 1 hour earlier and I'm going to spend that time reading. Or in the middle of the day, I don't know. I don't know. Have awareness. Know like what works for you, but you have to start creating processes. Go study this, like go study time management stuff, right? Another thing that is very useful, at least to me, is like, okay, if I want to do something, let's say I want to read, let's stick to that example. Then I'm going to put my phone away. I'm going to put my phone in another room. I'm not going to have any distractions. And I'm going to do that for, I don't know, 25 minutes. That's the only thing that I do. 25 minutes, that's it. And then after those 25 minutes, then I have a reward or I go do something else. But for those 25 minutes, that's all that I'm doing. So then you see what you can get done in those 25 minutes, not because you have more time, but because you have more attention and focus is insane. So those are the types of things that you should be thinking about. And then the other point when it comes to energy, back to what I said earlier, it doesn't matter how much time you have. If you don't have energy, then you don't get things done. So there are things that you can do throughout the day to do some maintenance in your energy, right? Whether that's stepping away from the computer for 15 minutes. Every time that you do, work for 25 minutes, step away for 15 minutes, go back. Whether that's working out, which helps a lot with our energy, whether that's sleeping earlier, finding ways to go to bed earlier, whether that's, I don't know, go Google it, go figure it out, go talk to ChatGPT to find ways to do energy management. But a lot of our energy is wasted because we're also focusing on the wrong things. So that exercise of realigning your time and your decisions to your values, that is huge. That's massive. That's key because a lot of the energy goes in that part as well. Now, obviously, a lot of our energy is taken by the fact that we do things in life as adults that we not always want, things that, are not enjoyable. So we can't run away from those. There's a few things that we can do. Number one, delegate whenever we can. That's why, very rich people, it feels like they have more time because they delegate everything. They have the money to do so. We don't. Do we? No, we don't. We have to clean our own houses. We have to do, that's fine. But sometimes I find myself, even not having all those resources, I find myself taking more and putting more into my plate than I should, even at work. Like you can delegate more things. Sometimes it's because you don't have the resources, but sometimes it's because you want to feel like you can do everything yourself and that you can handle it all on your own. You're not gaining more points for that, more stars. Like, no, you can ask for help, ask people for help. So the moment that you start saying more no's, you start delegating more, asking people for help, you see how much time back you start to get. And then the other thing that we can do is understanding that yes, there are things that I can escape from. I'm gonna have to do them anyway, even if I don't want them because I'm an adult. Some of those are never going to change, but some others are just a reflection of our current state and our current choices or the choices that were imposed upon us. So for those, we also have to be realistic and find ways to like work towards changing that, but also understanding that as a provisional state. Right. So, hey, this is my life right now. I understand what it is. And with what it is and the things that I cannot change, how can I fit, even if it's not the ideal state, how can I fit other things that matter to me? So let's say you are a very, very busy person. You work a 9 to 5, you have kids, you have to clean your house, you have like all of these things that you do. And hopefully you delegate some of them, or at least you work with your partner on, making sure that you do it all. But let's say you don't even have a partner. Let's say you're all alone in your life. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And then you say, "Oh, but I want to work out. I want to live a healthier. I want to live a healthier life." Well, but I don't have the time or I don't have the energy. So you can do one of two things. One, you admit that with the setting of my life right now, with the way that it is, there's no way that I'm going to fit this in. So I'm going to be okay with the fact that I'm slacking on that part. I'm going to be okay with the fact that that's not a reality. Or you're going to own that as a priority, if it is a priority, and you're going to see how it fits into your reality. Maybe you're striving for 1 hour workouts. Maybe you're striving for, oh, let me drive 30 minutes to a class, a workout class. And that doesn't work for you. That doesn't fit your schedule. But maybe a 20-minute workout does. Maybe a 20-minute walk does. Maybe a 30-minute walk does. So you have to be realistic with your current state. And assuming that something's a priority, you try to find ways to fit it, or you just accept that it's impossible for that thing to be a priority at the moment and it's not a priority for you, and you let it go for the time being. And you work towards being building a life, and you work towards building a life with time that is going to allow for that. Right. So being very objective and being very like straight to the point, because sometimes that anxiety and frustration with not having everything at its peak at the same time comes from the fact that we just don't accept reality, which is we have limited time and we have limited energy. And we have to start making choices, and very conscious choices of, okay, this is a priority to me, so I'm making a conscious choice, even if it means that I'm going to be a little bit more tired at the end of the day, even if it means that I'm okay with the consequences of my action or inaction. So you don't have, my love, to have it all at its peak at the same time in your life. You don't have to have everything just like a fucking movie. Your relationship, your career, your friends, your workout routine, everything, your health, everything is just amazing at the same time. You can be happy in spite of having all of that figured out. You can still enjoy the different chapters of your life, and you can build your life in a way and consciously look at your life in a way of building certain mechanisms to allow for you to have a little bit more time or a little bit more energy to do the things that matter to you. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode at the Adults Table.